Green frog. Once upon a time, in a lush green pond hidden deep within a quiet forest, there lived a little green frog and his kind, patient mother. The pond was a beautiful place filled with blooming lotus flowers and sparkling dragonflies, but for the little frog, it was just a place to find trouble. This little frog was famous throughout the entire forest, not for his jumping or his singing, but for one very peculiar habit. He never, ever did what he was told. If his mother said, "Go play in the meadow," the little frog would immediately hop toward the dark woods. If she said, "Stay quiet so the heron doesn't find us," he would puff out his chest and croak as loudly as he could. He was a chungaggery, a green frog who lived life in reverse. It wasn't that he was mean-spirited, he just seemed to have a heart that wanted to do the exact opposite of every suggestion. "My dear son," his mother would sigh, her heart heavy with worry. "Please stay away from the edge of the pond where the tall grass grows. It is dangerous there." As soon as the words left her mouth, the little frog thought to himself, "The tall grass looks like the perfect place for an adventure." And off he went, splashing through the reeds. He lived his life like a mirror, reflecting every command into its opposite. If she told him to hop up, he hopped down. If she told him to go left, he scurried right. Years passed, and the little frog grew bigger, but his stubbornness grew even faster. His mother's hair turned gray, and her voice grew weak from constant worrying. She spent her days trying to protect him, but she knew she was getting old and tired. She realized that she wouldn't be around forever to guide him. One day, the mother frog fell very ill. She felt her strength fading and knew that her time in the beautiful pond was coming to an end. She called her son to her side. Even in her last moments, she was thinking about how to help him. She knew that if she asked for a proper burial on the sunny hillside, he would do the opposite and bury her in the cold, wet sand by the river. "My son," she whispered, her voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. "When I pass away, please do not bury me on the mountain. Instead, bury me right here, by the bank of the river." She closed her eyes for the last time, believing that by asking for the riverbank, her stubborn son would surely bury her safely on the dry, peaceful hillside where the sun always shone. When the little frog realized his mother was gone, his heart broke into 1,000 pieces. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like being naughty. He looked at his mother's tired face and remembered all the times he had ignored her kindness. He remembered how she stayed up late to keep him warm and how she shared her food even when she was hungry. "Oh, what have I done?" he wailed, his tears falling into the pond like tiny pebbles. "I was such a foolish son. I never listened to a single word she said. I made her life so difficult with my stubborn ways." He sat by her side for 3 days and 3 nights, crying until his eyes were red. He decided that he would finally be a good son. He wanted to honor his mother's very last wish to make up for all the years of disobedience. "Mother asked to be buried by the river," he sobbed. "I always did the opposite of what she wanted when she was alive. This time, I will do exactly what she asked. I will follow her command perfectly." Even though the other forest animals told him that burying someone by a river was a bad idea because the water might wash the grave away, the little frog wouldn't listen. He dug a deep hole in the soft, sandy soil right at the edge of the rushing water. He worked until his little flippers were sore, making sure everything was just as she had requested. He placed her there with great care and covered the grave with stones. A few weeks later, dark clouds gathered in the sky. A huge summer storm began to brew. Lightning flashed, and thunder rolled through the valley like a giant's drum. Then, the rain began to fall. It wasn't just a light drizzle, it was a heavy, pouring rain that turned the quiet stream into a roaring, angry river. The little frog grew terrified. He ran to the riverbank and saw the water rising higher and higher. The waves began to lick at the base of his mother's grave. "Oh no," he cried out. "The water is going to wash my mother away. I have to stop it." He stood by the grave, pushing against the rising tide with his tiny body. He tried to stack more rocks, but the current was too strong. He began to croak loudly, calling out to the heavens to make the rain stop. Gagyul, Gagyul, please stop raining. Mother will wash away. Gagyul, Gagyul. He cried and cried, but the rain continued to pour. Every time a drop hit his skin, he was reminded of his regret. He stayed there all night, croaking in agony, watching the water. Luckily, the grave held that night, but the fear never left him. From that day on, whenever the sky turns gray and the first drops of rain begin to fall, the green frogs remember the story of the son who listened too late. They hop to the water's edge, puff out their throats, and cry, Gagyul, Gagyul, at the top of their lungs. They aren't singing for joy, they are crying out in worry, hoping the rain won't wash away their mother's graves, still feeling the sadness of a son who only learned to listen when it was too late to say, I'm sorry.